right. Well, pardon me. Here we go. For attendees, Chelsea. Heather. We are live. Okay. We're, oops, wait, I gotta bring Taylor in. Yeah, I put us on already, so we don't forget.
Good morning.
Hi, Chelsea.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good morning.
Good. Good morning. Barbara Nancy is in the attendees, and as well as Scepter.
And Chelsea is co-host. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. I'm just gonna put a light on. It's so dark.
I'm just gonna grab a cup of coffee. 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Water. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order if everyone's ready. Barbara, let me know when you're good. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm calling the Southborough Board of Health meeting to order on Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. All board members are present, and first order of business is public comment. So if you have anything you'd like to say in the first public comment, feel free to raise your hand. There'll also be one at the end of the meeting. Okay, I don't see anybody's hand raised. And I do see that we have Mark Wheeler and Diane Legier in the room, and I believe that they have a hard stop. So if the board's okay, I'd like to just do the community fridge update first. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So I'm going to bring Diane and Mark over. And Mark, when you come over, if there's somebody else that should join us for this conversation.
Jessica.
I don't see her. Oh, there she is.
I do.
Sorry. Okay, there she is.
Hi guys.
Hi,
Hello.
Diane.
You can't actually see me because I'm in my car. So there's no video on.
No problem.
Well, at least you're not upside down.
Exactly. We finally got that fixed though, so progress.
Excellent. Good morning, Mark, Diane, and Jessica. Welcome to.
Morning.
Nice to see you all again. So I know that Heather circulated yesterday some of the or the rules and regs. I don't know if that's where you want to start or if there's something else that you want to start with first.
I just wanted to express my gratitude for the regulations and the guidance that we've received. It's been enormously helpful. And some of the recommendations are influencing the design of the shed itself, where things will be stored. So all very, very good information. Thank you very much.
Agreed. Thank you so much. We received the documents yesterday and we'll not only be disseminating those to everybody that's involved with the project, but we'll also host those on the forthcoming website, and the collaboration and help has been great. So thank you.
Right. Diane and I had a virtual meeting last week, Friday, and we all kind of sat down and talked about all the regulations and planning for a potential power outage. And we also provided a document about volunteers and food safety.
Yeah.
So who's going to provide training on food safety to the volunteers? Do we know that yet?
So
Well-
do you mean from a government position or from the group of volunteers?
I guess I more meant, like, are you relying on the town to provide that training, or are you going to keep that in-house with your set of volunteers, Jessica?
That's a good point. I mean, do you guys have a preference? My understanding was we'd provide them using the guidelines. Oh no, did I just get signed out?
No,
No,
you're-
Oh,
We're
okay.
here.
Sorry, Oracle has a single sign-on, so sometimes it will like kick off to force you to redo it again. So sorry, I think it's the Slack channel that's trying to get me to log in, and it covered up the screen. So my thought was that we would follow the guidelines that we had been given in train, but if we had a core set of volunteers and the Board of Health was willing to hold an initial session, I think that would be wonderful as well. So I guess my my response is we're happy to go either way. I think things are pretty straightforward, but like that to me in matters of health, there's never too much guidance, right? So
Right. Diane,
And
I think also if we can take our lead from how the training is performed by the people for the Northborough Fridge, I think some maybe that's creating an SOP that I read and have understood, or come from the pharma business, so that's why I say that.
yeah.
Or if there's like some short is created so that people get walked through a short PowerPoint and something like that. Whatever training aids you suggest you think are good for us to use, I think we would be glad to adopt them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Diane, do you have any ideas on or things that you've seen work well?
Yeah, so my thought is that we'll partner with them in training. I think, it's always better to work with people. And I'm happy to offer trainings for volunteers. And I'm also happy to put together a Zoom that we can record and they can put on their website.
Okay.
For new volunteers, that's always great to have immediate access when somebody's joining an organization.
Excellent. Thank you. I do have one other
And-
question.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay,
Go
go.
ahead.
No, go.
Go ahead. I was going to change the topic. Is that okay?
Oh, so on community fridge, the regulations, I think the board could vote to sort of adopt that we have community fridge regulations with the document that was sent yesterday.
I agree. One other question before we do that. And I know that you've been in contact with Chief Paulus, but in terms of security, what kind of measures are being taken to make sure that there's no issues over there? And I don't know if you know of any yet.
Sure. So we did meet with him, and his advice that we, I think, all agreed, and Mark, feel free to jump in because you were actually physically part of that environment, but was that we would have lights shining directly on that area. He did confirm what we suspected, which is that the risk and current state of vandalism and such in the area is basically nil. Of course, wanting to make sure the balance of security and anonymity is present. So the lighting does that for us.
Okay.
We don't want to do anything that would cause people not to use the fridge. So it's sort of that balance.
Okay.
Initially he had thought maybe put it out front, and it's like, well, then you're putting them on display in one of the busiest streets in Southborough so people can be like, oh, look, there's so-and-so's mom at the fridge, so that's why the back corner plus parking. We didn't want, what happens, I see this at the fridges both in Worcester and at Northborough, is you start to get a pile up at busier times. And so if people were parking at the direct access point to the rest of the St. Mark's rectory and parking lot, we also thought that could be an issue. And then people trying to back out and those kind of things. So the back corner there, will be sufficiently lit. And Mark, I know you'll probably add this, but the electrical is already present there. So it will continue to be lit directly at that source.
Right. There's a dusk to dawn lighting already of the parking lot itself. Chief Paulus suggested as well, our parish house is visible certainly from that back parking lot. And he said, even putting just a lamp and having that lit from dusk to dawn to demonstrate that somebody is in the other buildings nearby or could easily be a deterrent to anyone who might want to cause some kind of mischief. It's already in proximity of the rectory where Father Phil and his family lives. So there's it's not like, for example, the Fay lot where you're so far back and it's just tennis courts and there's people nearby. So he thought that would be very helpful in context of location.
Those are all my questions. Safta or Nancy, do you have any questions on the regulations or anything else related?
No.
Okay.
Everything looks great.
Great. So I will move that the Southborough Board of Health accept the community fridge regulations as presented.
I'll second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye.
Malinowski's aye. What else do you need from our side? Anything?
Well, they're going to be applying for their food license.
Okay.
So probably,
that's
yes,
fine.
Barbara, they'll reach out to you, Barbara, to start that.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Aye.
And Diane, while we have you, I'm just looking to see if I have anything else on the agenda. I don't think I had anything specifically listed, but is there anything that you want us to add for our next meeting?
I think we can talk more about like auditors for food establishments that are having continued issues. I think that's a really important thing that maybe we vote. We put that on as a vote so that we can amend the town regulations. It's a very common practice with problematic food establishments.
Okay.
And I can
perfect.
write something, I can draft something for that.
Thank you. Okay, great. I think that's all we had for you today, Diane. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Diane.
Okay, thanks so much.
great
You
day.
guys take care. You too.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Okay. So next on the agenda is vote to approve the meeting minutes from 1/12/22, 1/18/22, and 1/25/22. So those were circulated by Barbara. Does anybody have any changes?
Nope.
I do.
Okay. So I move that we vote to approve meeting minutes 1/12/22, 1/18/22, and 1/25/22.
I second the motion and vote aye. Sacco.
And I vote aye.
Malinowski's aye. Thank you. Okay, next is revisit the townwide mask mandate. So this was, this board approved the townwide mask mandate in, I think it was effective January 13th, and we said that we would revisit it at our February 8th meeting. So I'll open it up to the board for your thoughts on this topic.
Well, I did have one question. Somebody from the town that actually works at Marlborough Hospital was wondering why we didn't have any sign, like he said he went to Fitzgerald's, there was no sign. Who hands out, were we supposed to provide signage and were they supposed to put it up?
We did send the sample sign. They didn't have to use our sign, but we did provide a sign to through the economic development coordinator. She reached out to all the businesses. Some used it, some didn't, but it was up to them which sign they wanted to use.
Okay. I mean, the numbers are coming down. Yeah. So I don't know what you guys think.
For context, our numbers are back to before Omicron. Last week we had 32 active cases, which is consistent with what we had in October and November.
Yeah.
And we are tracking hospitalizations, and it seems to be over the peak of that as well, trending down.
Definitely, yeah. Thank
Yeah,
God.
I saw the 2-week for Massachusetts, right, in the past 2 weeks, down 46% for hospitalizations for COVID in the state.
And I know it's only Tuesday of this week, but so far we've only had 2 cases this week. So that's really encouraging.
I'm knocking on wood.
Yeah.
We could endorse the advisory.
That's what I was going to say. I think we go from mandate to keep the advisory in place, I think, and then revisit that later.
Okay. I agree with all that. I think we did it at a time that we were surging, and now we're coming down, and I think we're moving in the right direction. So I'm in favor of that as well.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Okay. So
I
are we
mean,
ready to
masks
vote
do
then?
help. Right. But
Yeah, and I mean, I would encourage still doing
help.
an advisory.
We still
Yes.
encourage masking
Yes.
to prevent cases, which.
Agreed. Okay, so I move that the Southborough Board of Health remove the townwide mask mandate and go back to an advisory for mask wearing.
I second the motion and vote aye. Sacco.
And I vote aye. Medina.
Okay.
Just to
and-
clarify, effective immediately.
Yes, that's what I was
Okay.
going to say.
And
Yes, effective immediately. Okay. So I will reach out to the EDC coordinator again to let her know so she can notify the businesses, and I'll also ask the town administrator to do a press release.
And I can update our website.
Right,
you.
it's on the town website as well.
Yes. Taylor, can you update the town or no website? No.
I can update the COVID portion, but I can't update the banner. So I can reach
It's
out
on
to
the
Katie and
banner.
have her do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so the next item is Ken's expansion as it relates to noise. So planning board had a meeting last night. And my understanding is that Ken's asked for an extension on that topic. So it was not discussed. I put it on here in case we had an update. Heather, I don't know if there's anything that you want to discuss on that.
Right, a couple things. So just so you understand, sort of the current operations are what I would call the west side, and the proposed expansion is for kind of warehouse storage space. So that's actually on the east side. So I don't know that the expansion is going to directly affect the current complaints of noise are generally off from Ken's in the direction on the west side towards Flag Road. So I don't know that that's a direct, I don't sense the expansion unless it's going to really affect the operations on the east side. And so that I'll ask them about. But I think in general that when we're looking at expansion, we want to kind of consider that the current situation. So last week we did hold an informal listening session that Ken's hosted on Zoom with Flag Road abutters, which was helpful. And I think the charge there was that these residents who are impacted by noise, we know noise has health implications, but those residents impacted by noise need to let me or Ken's know, because if Ken's doesn't know about it, they can't help. And so in that meeting, they did give out, contact information to reach out to the manager at Ken's. And it's still sort of not exactly clear, but with the operations on that side in 2019, all residents had the same timeline of when it started impacting their area, but it's not quite clear exactly what with the operations is that noise that's vibrational low and more heard at nighttime. So we need more information, and that was what came of that meeting. And then just on an aside, Diane and I did a walkthrough of the warehouse yesterday inside. That was great, a very well kept, well managed warehouse inside.
Oh, wow. Thanks for doing that.
Excellent.
Yep. We have some other plans to places to go. Yeah, Diane and I.
You're on tour in Southborough. Okay, any questions on the Ken's piece?
No.
Okay. Okay, tobacco permits in Southborough.
And
so-
Olivia Dufour is joining.
Oh, excellent. I will bring her over.
Two pieces, right? We voted last meeting and we sent out, Barbara amended our current regulations, and then we'll talk about the process to look into updating our regulations, which was last done in 2017. But for the current regulations with the vote for the 6 licenses, we're going to look at that language to approve that. And Olivia came from our Metro West Tobacco Control Division.
Great. Welcome, Olivia. Thanks for coming. Heather, do you want to talk about do you want us to approve the language first and then talk about the process?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay. So did everyone get a chance to review what Barbara updated for us? Okay. Are we good with it?
Yes.
Okay. So I move to accept the updated regulation based on the vote to limit the establishments to 6 as presented by Barbara.
I second the motion and vote aye, Sacco.
And I vote aye, Medina.
And Malinowski's aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, Heather and Olivia.
I'll kick off. So the tobacco regulations, as you know, I'm new here a year, but my understanding is, and Nancy would be the one to update us, but I believe the regulations were updated in 2017. And in 2019, there was a start and looking at our regulations and starting the process to updating them, but it didn't happen. And obviously, since then, there's been a lot of state, updates. And so we, I think, want to update our whole, suite, our whole regulations document as it stands. And Olivia can help with that, as well as the MHOA, Sarah McColgan. I think, Nancy, she might have come to meetings before.
I think I do recall.
Exactly. So I was in touch with her a couple weeks ago and had a very informative meeting. And basically, Olivia can help me, but my understanding is that they have sort of templates, et cetera, of regulations and things that we as a town want to consider. So there's sort of a email that I think I'll send to the 3 board members with some specific points about regulating certain areas, smoking bars, blunt wraps, different areas that if I could get input from the 3 of you about your thinking to me, then I can start drafting what would seem like what our board is looking to do and not do with the regulations. And we have some information. I have some statewide. Olivia has our kind of tobacco control. 13 towns has information sort of on what towns have done different pieces added to their regulations. So that's one piece we're going to I'll be emailing you 3 to get feedback to me about what you're thinking about for regulations for our town. And then we will be drafting a sample regulation. And I was told we definitely want to make this a very public and open meeting when this is kind of discussed with the regulations. And then we would be going through, kind of the proposed regulations. The maybe Olivia can help me, and I had emailed her. Some of the considerations are having dual fines. Sort of there's state fines and there's local, and whether the state tends to be higher. It looks like, do we go off the state just as written? A few towns have I think dual, both state and local, but maybe Olivia or someone can enlighten me on that, because that piece I'm a little confused on about.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to clarify that state versus local fine. Would that be helpful to do now, or do we want to wait until later in the conversation now? Okay,
sure.
perfect.
And then you can go through sort of some of the things to consider as a municipality adding or to our regulations, and mention about some of the local.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, if you want to talk about the local and the state, I know that's going to affect how this is written.
Yeah. So just as a reminder, hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. My name is Olivia Dufour. I am the Tobacco Control Program Manager for the Metro West Tobacco Control District, which oversees 13 cities and towns in the Metro West area and their tobacco enforcement, as well as doing some of this stuff like regulation updates. So I'm really excited to be here.
Right, and SAFTR might be new from when we, I think, introduced you last March. And so Olivia's the one in the spring who did the inspections on our tobacco retail, and then also oversees the compliance checks, does those as well for our tobacco, which were done in April, May and June. Yeah.
So when it comes to the local versus state fines, we do have one community in our district that has adopted the state fines overall. So all of their violations refer to that state language. All of the rest of our communities either haven't updated their regs, or when they since that state change, or when they did update them, they kept in language for their own violations. So the state violations, first offense is $1,000, second is $2,000 and up to a 7-day permit suspension. Third is $5,000 and up to a 30-day permit suspension. And that's within a 36-month tolling period, which is pretty standard, the 36 months. Many municipalities prior to this state had their own violations, which were typically $100, $200, $300. There has been some variation with the permit suspension length, municipality to municipality. And prior to the state raising their fines, we did have a couple of towns in our district who raised their violation so that it was $300 for every single violation, because that's the maximum amount that you can write a ticket for is $300. Anything above that, it has to be issued as a cease and desist order. So basically the options are to keep in, and there's a really great draft regulation that was put together by the technical assistant providers to our tobacco program that kind of outlines, different ways to put this language in there. But the options are to set it up so that any violation that is tobacco related that happens in the town of Southborough would be charged that 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 sort of blanket violation. And then, or there's a way to do it where state violations are separated out and it's clear that those will receive that fine. Whereas anything that is individual to Southborough that goes above and beyond those state regulations is fined at either 100, 200, 300 or 300, 300, 300, depending on what you the board prefers to see. Does that clear that up a little bit? Are there any questions about that violation piece?
Do you know why a lot of towns haven't? I mean, it seems to me that it's, it would be great to be uniform across the state. And, it sounds like one of our surrounding towns has done it, but what's holding back other towns from doing it? Because to me, that makes the most sense is to do it as the state is doing it.
That's a really good question. I know that many of our towns have not haven't updated their regs since that state violation came through. So I'm not sure what their decision would be to do if we were to bring that to them. That's sort of on our docket for the rest of FY22, and then going into hopefully FY23. Now that there's a little bit more space for boards of health to be thinking about these kinds of things. I'm not sure what it looks like across the state with folks updating to that 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. But I think there's some, if I were to sort of extrapolate, I think that there's some hesitancy just because those fines are so large. But I think it could go either way, right? Either you want to be uniform with the state, because it does get confusing when you're parsing through and trying to figure out what violation gets which dollar amount and gets which sort of for suspension.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot more money than what our fines are.
So we don't need to make any decisions today though, right? This is just for kind of for us to get information around, what the options are and then Heather to come up with a draft. Okay.
And just one more question, Olivia. Thank you, again, for outlining all that. So if we enact any further local regulations that are beyond the state, then we would have to have these additional fines, right? For those, or so for example, like if there was a state violation and we agreed to do the state, so that state violation would be the $1,000. But if we, in addition, added a local regulation, that we can find on our own separately. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Yep. Anything that any board does that goes above and beyond the state fines, the board has complete jurisdiction over how they choose to penalize those violations.
And do we know if we have any regulations that are above and beyond what the state currently has? Do we have any of that language? Do we know?
Currently, based on the regulations that I last had access to, which I think were maybe pre-2017, I'm not sure.
Like I said, I think they were updated 2017. There was a look at 2019 at them, but they never completed the process. But it was 2017.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there are currently no regulations that go above and beyond that state. That state fine or that state regulation.
It may be helpful to know what some of those would be. I don't know if we have.
Olivia, do you want to show that little graph too about some of the things?
Yes, I can do that. Let me see. Should I share my screen? That might get a little.
Chelsea, can she share?
Hold on, let me. I think you have to take me off of co-host and make Olivia co-host, Barbara.
I just allowed, I thought, for her to share.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Oh, perfect. Let me just pull that up in a way where I can share with you all. So I have this fun graphic. Oh, I think somebody needs to stop sharing before I can share.
Barbara, it looks like you're sharing your screen.
Oh, sorry about that. Hang on.
No worries.
Oh, it's the wrong screen. Okay, I lost me. Okay. Should be, oh crap, sorry. All right, you know what? I don't know what it just did. I hate this thing sometimes, making controls. Okay, here we go. It's just doing funky stuff. Got it. Yeah. Got it.
Perfect. Okay.
Does
Let me
whatever
see.
it wants.
I can share my OneNote with you. All right. So this is sort of a chart that I put together back when I first came on to the district about kind of what regulations do each of the surrounding towns have. And then down here, I just grabbed some information off of the MHOA website about not just our own district, but also across the state, how many municipalities have some of these regulations. So the main ones to focus on are the ones down here. So banning blunt wraps, capping the permit, which is what you guys had talked about prior to me coming on to speak about, capping at 6. Cigar pricing, that one would make the price of a single cigar has to be priced at least $2.50 pre-tax, and any packs of 2 or more cigars would have to be priced at $5 before tax. But having retailers near retailers, so retailers cannot get a license if they're within 500 feet of an existing tobacco retailer. Banning smoking bars, and retailers cannot get a permit if they are within 500 feet of a school. So those are kind of the big ones that we encourage municipalities to enact that go above and beyond that state. So banning flavor, putting a limit on electronic nicotine delivery systems or vapes, and having the age be 21. Those are obviously all enacted by the state, but we do recommend that municipalities put that language into their local regulation so that if retailers are looking at that local regulation, it's not confusing. It doesn't say anything conflicting. And it's very clear what those limits are. So those are the big ones. So we do have a lot of surrounding towns that have the blunt wrap ban, cap permits, and have a cigar pricing limit. Less so that are concerned about having retailers within 500 feet of other retailers. And then we're getting there with banning the smoking bars and having retailers who are near schools, or not allowing retailers near schools, I should say. So those are the main things that we're thinking about when we're thinking about going above that state regulation.
No, this is wonderful. I mean, it sounds like we have a lot to add on to our town's regulations for sure, in terms of updating. I mean, all of the things, make sense. And some, as you said, Olivia, covered by the state. When we look at flavoring, the state does include menthol. Is that correct in flavors?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So that we wouldn't have to have separate language for menthol. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
So does that make sense? I can also share
Yes.
these graphs with Heather, and she can pass them along to you all if that would be helpful as well.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Excellent. I think you've given us a lot to think about. I think we know we have some work to do in this area. So we definitely appreciate you coming, and I guess we'll look forward to getting some more information from Heather and working towards kind of what we all think is best for Southborough.
Absolutely. And I'm always happy to help. I can also pass my contact information along with those graphs so that if you guys have any questions or comments or are concerned about enacting something, you can give me a buzz or write me an email, and I'm happy to chat more at length about those things.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Olivia.
All right. I will log off. Thank you.
Have a great day.
having me.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so the salary band from the personnel board for the nurse assistant health director outreach coordinator. So this was on the last personnel board's agenda, but they did not have a quorum to speak on this particular topic, so they did not get to vote it, but it was in their public packet. So I just wanted to bring it to this board because it was banded as a 7, and the midpoint is 84,000, roughly. I think there's some change related to that. So I wanted to bring it back to this board to discuss pursuing going above midpoint for this position, and kind of the process around that. I just didn't want to wait for another meeting. I would rather try to get ahead of it a little bit. So I guess I'll get your thoughts on going through that process, and then I'll explain the process.
So, I mean, I would like to go above. I think I agree with you, Chelsea. I think we should go above. And
Okay.
anything that we can do, I think would be great. And then if you can share that again, and at some point, doesn't have to be in this meeting, is who else in town is on a 7? I think that will help us to maybe look who's above a 7, because I think we can very easily say this nurse, and outreach coordinator position is in a higher grade. I think it's a fairly easy case to make, but I think having that comparison to other town positions would be great.
So, and I don't think I was very clear. So the Board of Health has the ability to offer somebody a SAP position up to midpoint. That the midpoint is 84. The high end of the band, I think, is like 97. So the band will accommodate the salary that currently exists. We just have to present to personnel board comps of other towns of similar jobs. So I've been working on kind of gathering that data to bring to personnel board to say, here's similar responsibilities. Now, obviously, we're comparing it to a nurse or an assistant health director. I have not found any jobs that are actually both together. So I think that we just need to keep that in mind, that this is a nurse plus, those other titles. So, we're not asking to go to a different band, but we need to go through the process to ask for above the midpoint. I am in favor of going through that process. I just didn't want to do it and go to personnel without us taking a formal position on that. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think we should go for the max.
I would say the same, right?
Well, we have in our budget the current salary plus the 3% increase. So that's what I was kind of benchmarking it against, was that amount that we had voted on for FY23.
Which I would be happy with. I don't know if anybody that would be fine with me.
Okay. So, and some of the data that we were able to pull is from like 2021 rates. So I also am caveating that I'm just kind of doing an Excel spreadsheet and comparing, the ranges and then what the estimated amount would be for FY23. So I'm happy to, I don't know if I'm going to reach out. I wanted to get this board's vote first and then reach out to personnel board and see if we can get on the next agenda. And if anybody's interested, I can also post a meeting for when they're going to have us in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know, Chelsea, if I don't know if this was brought up last time, but for the vacation time, should we add that in there as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. All right. So just give me one second. I want to make sure I have the right number.
And let me know if you want any more comps in specific towns, and I'm happy to look them up.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. So are you okay if I make a motion?
Yes.
So I move that the Board of Health do a comp analysis for the nurse assistant health director outreach coordinator position that is getting added to the SAP at $93,058.19, as well as 3 weeks vacation.
I second the motion and vote aye, Saka.
And I vote aye.
Okay, Malinowski is aye. Okay, so and I can let you know when I can get on the personnel board, and then you just let me know if you want me to post too.
Okay.
And that way, if anybody wants to join, then we're covered. Okay. They usually meet at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. I don't know what that means.
What was that total amount again?
Oh, sorry. It was 93,058.19.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay. The review and vote on new health director job description. I'm not sure if that one's ready yet or not. Heather or Safdar?
There was the section that I had put some proposed language in, the knowledge of. I
Okay,
had put in some proposed language. Do you want me to send that around or?
sure. And we can add that to the next one then. Okay.
Yeah, I did review it and I thought that it was perfect. Heather and I talked about it as well. So I think that
Okay. Okay, perfect.
it
All
definitely
right. So
gives,
yeah,
the idea of what the health director, the knowledge the health director has to have, as well as more of an, the overseeing of these operations is very key. And that's the things that we added in.
okay. Yeah, Heather, if you just want to circulate that before the next meeting, that would be great. Okay. The Metro West Health Foundation grant award. So Heather, as you remember, applied for the $50,000.
Right.
She was awarded the total. So congratulations on that. So Heather, do you want to give an update on that, and then specifically the constant contact piece?
Right. So the grant agreement came and I have signed that and returned that to Metro West. I've been told that they're going to cut checks on February 15th, have a board member sign them, and then they'd be snail mailed to us. So the money, February 18th, but perhaps not till the following week. If anyone's interested, I can't remember if I sent the board kind of the application, which had the line items. I think I did. The grant agreement said you could change funds out of a line item if it's 10%. So we're going to be looking into further employee testing, test kits for vulnerable populations. We may be partnering with other towns on ordering test kits to be used with our vulnerable populations, because some of the state minimums are tough to meet as our town. What else? So the subscription to Constant Contact, we've been talking about for a while, because in the fall, we had the communications intern and we got our Facebook up and running, but her intention is also to get a newsletter up and running. And we had looked at some options, and Constant Contact looked like our preferred for the newsletter, and for the size that we think, and for the discount for the prepay, it's somewhere around $350 to $400 for the year for the subscription. Our intern was supposed to end in December. She's willing to do some work in February and maybe March. So I really wanted to see if there's any way that we could get that payment, because the agreement's signed already. If any of you had any pull, to get that payment ASAP.
Okay,
That was the
we
line
may-
item.
that's
Right, it was a line
okay.
item. It's less than I put on the line item because we got the discount and such.
Okay. Are we ready to go with the application then, or
Oh, yeah.
where are we at with that? Okay, so,
The constant contact,
will-
yeah, no, we're
Okay.
ready for our subscription, yes.
Got
So we have the subscription all set up. The way that it works is we have to send they sent us the invoice. We have to mail out the check for it. So it does take probably about a week to get approved. And then once it's approved, we'll be able to access and start, putting in our followers and doing creating newsletters.
got it.
But until our check clears, we're not able to do anything like that.
Okay, I will follow up on that today then and get back to you. Okay. Anyone have any questions about constant contact and specifically?
No.
Or the grant?
No.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for your work on that, Heather and Taylor. Okay, the air sensor grant award. So this one, Heather also applied for and received.
Yeah, and I think I emailed, there was a press release, I think it was 39 municipalities in the state. We are awarded 5 air sensors to be hosted in our town, and we sort of had Northborough apply as well, so we could, and we, both are getting air sensors, and the charge on the application was to pair with community groups, businesses, schools, to host these air sensors. The air sensors, we had town admin sign, and that's, we've already signed the agreement, and I got the executed copy back. So they weren't exactly clear when they're mailing them out, but could be soon. We will receive the air sensors, and then we have 60 days to do the installation and get them up and running. So there's a Purple Air, that's the manufacturer, and so the website is already up and running. When they have an air sensor, you can see on a map kind of the PM 2.5 particulate matter levels. So the plan for Southborough was to pair with the schools, and I had a meeting with operations, Keith Lavoie, and with Brian, facilities manager for Southborough. And they're already sort of ahead of the game. I've given them the installation instructions, and they're kind of looking, what they don't want to do is require an electrician. So it's going to be outdoors, but it needs a power source and a Wi-Fi source. They're going to contact the manufacturer about whether they can do this all as one, and like a cable. So anyway, they're very on getting that installation. So the plan would be this spring to get them up and running and on the map. And then the grant asks that you host for a year. I mean, you could potentially do longer, and then we're going to work in next school year for that like curriculum piece as well. So the plan for Southborough, I also had 2 community residents, SOLF committee members. The plan is for them to host 2, and then 3 would be hosted at school locations. Based on what the school, if one location looked tricky for them in terms of needing an electrician to get a power source, Wi-Fi source. And so Northborough's going to have 5 hosted at schools.
Okay. And is there some sort of application that you'll have access to track the data that's produced out of this?
That's all on Purple Air website, right? But then they'll get me data, but I think they're discoverable on the website. But then yes, Purple Air will supply me with.
And then it's to do it for a year. Is that what you said? Okay. Okay. And then are you planning on like running a report, every other month for us to kind of talk about what's going on, or what do you
Right. I
think?
mean, right now,
Okay.
the piece is, the schools wanted to first get them kind of up and running, but we were going to talk about with the school with sort of the curriculum piece there. But
Yeah,
right, how do we want to, publish the data for our, community at large in terms of what we're
Right.
getting at our different
Right.
locations? I don't think we've worked that out, but I think that would be sort of the plan would be to supply,
yeah,
data to our folks.
excellent. Thank you. Any other questions on that?
Oh, just thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next is the ARPA committee request. So there's a newly formed committee that is setting up a process and kind of ranking system for the Southborough ARPA money that was 3.1 million that was allocated to the town. And essentially you have until 2024 to allocate those funds. And, there's obviously a lot of different ways that you can use the money. One of those is public health. So they reached out to see if we would like to go present to them our top 4 kind of asks that we would like to see the money be used. So I did ask them to allow us to have a board meeting before we go and present, because I thought it was an important topic for us to discuss first. And so I think Heather has come up with a few ideas. And some of them, as we discussed at advisory last week, could potentially come out of the state ARPA bill, which is totally separate than the Southborough 3.1 million. So one of those items is the digitizing of records. I think that definitely seems to be something that I think will be available by the state. But if it's not, I think it's an important aspect to the health department that we need to get that caught up. So that was one of the ones, and Heather and I kind of had an offline conversation about this, but I'm not exactly sure